All right, we're going to get started, and I'm told I have to hit this thing to get the sound to work
There you
right.
go.
So,
Thank you.
did I do it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We are not going to do a call to the public because we're going to open the meeting up more broadly for an open discussion. What I would ask is that we have two agenda items that members of the board and the public, that we stick with those two agenda items, and that if you start getting off track, I'll try and get you back on track. If you don't get back on track, I'll ask you to, let somebody else talk for a while until you can collect your thoughts and get back on track. The primary purpose of this meeting is to reach out to all of the stakeholders who use the airport. This could be somebody who just comes in and rents a car. This could be a member of the GA, the MCAS, defense contractors, anybody who uses this airport, and try and create more avenues of communication. However, I need to be very careful in saying that for much of our business, contacting the airport staff is quite often the best way to get the most immediate results. However, there's other things and other things that we often would like to discuss, and the structure of the actual board meeting, the monthly board meeting, is not always the best place to do that. So we want to explore other places where we can have a more open conversation, a less structured conversation about things that are happening on the airport, things that people would like to see happening, and let the board digest this and report back to the, or rather let the committee digest this and report back to the board on what we think we can do to advance the concerns of everybody. One of the interesting things about this board as a whole is that none of us represents a constituency. We all work to advance the airport. We all work to make sure that this is the best possible facility, offering the best services possible. So there's nothing that prohibits anybody in the public from contacting any board member or Craig or anybody on the staff to address a concern. What we want to do is make sure that those concerns are given fair hearing, but we also have a responsibility, particularly as individual board members, not to respond, not to represent the board, or even really represent our own personal thoughts about board actions back to the community. The board acts as a whole. So what we want to do is be able to facilitate conversation about concerns, but that doesn't mean that as individuals we can actually respond back to you. That would not be a good way to conduct business. So having said all of that, the meeting really is about process as opposed to substance. We'll have additional meetings where we can address substance. So the process part is, what is it that people feel is not happening? What is it that people feel should be happening, and how can we bring those things together to ensure that we do have these open conversations, and also to the extent possible relaxed conversations where everybody sort of turns off the internal conversation and listens to what everybody else is saying, and then allow us to let that percolate and bring it back to the rest of the board. So having said that, what I'd like to do is first, if y'all don't mind, go around on the board. We have our nameplates in front of us, but if you give your name and then go out to the audience to do the same thing, and I'd like the staff to do the same thing too. So we'll start with Albert.
At this meeting, I'm here mainly to listen. So.
And your name is?
Albert Gardner, the listener today.
Okay.
For a change.
Craig Williams, Airport Director.
Bill Gresser, Director.
Bob. And Whitehead, Director.
And I'm Larry Gould. I'm on the board, and I'm the chair of this committee.
GLADYS Wiggins, Deputy Airport Director.
My name is Gary Hinkle. My friend is Colin Jr. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at the airport.
I thought your name was Junior.
Part of my name.
Okay.
Chris Alberti, AOPA.
Ken Scott, General Aviation.
Joe Gomez, Yuma Airport Watchdog.
Back in the corner.
Dan Dawson, I'm a small business owner and I'm running for county supervisor.
Jake Martin, citizen.
Douglas Holbert, investor.
Welcome. So, what I'd like to do first is throw this out to the group and just ask a plain and simple question. We'll start with what's not working, if you have some specifics, and then we'll move on to what is working. If you have an idea about what is not working and you think you have a solution to that, we'd like to hear that too. So, Chris, I'd like to start with you.
I guess the thing of transparency with the board, staff, and general aviation needs a big improvement. It seems to me, just in my personal opinion, that every time we try to agree with somebody, or we come to an agreement with somebody, whether it be the airport staff, airport board, or general aviation, that there's always, as soon as we have this certain agreement or come to a means of agreement, that it seems to be right after that there's something thrown into the pot. Somebody stirs the pot right after that. A good example of transparency is censorship. When we had the last couple meetings ago, and Mr. Gomez's comments were censored with music over that. That always creates an air of mistrust. And you can't sit there and have a communication when somebody's cutting out some of the words that are being said, whether it be GA, whether it be the board, whether it be airport staff. In the 2 years I've been doing this, ever since the day Albert Gardner came over to my hangar and said we need to find a new place to park our cars because tomorrow we're off the airport. That's what brought me into this whole ballgame. And that's what made me stand up and say, no, wait a minute, let's see where this is going first of all. Who is it coming from, and why are we doing this? Ever since that point in time, over those 2 years, I have seen a lot of things happen here, whether it be on our side, the GA side, the board side, the airport staff side, regardless of whose side it is. There is always something that is going on that is always throwing up a red flag. Not being able to communicate or get a decent response from, let's say, the staff or the board or from general aviation, because it's not just one side or the other, it's everybody. This whole thing has gotten so out of whack that nobody is trusting anybody anymore. What I get from people that email me that are members of the general aviation people, and most of my email people that I stay with are people that have a vested interest in this airport, own aircraft on this airport, maintain, fly aircraft out of this airport. And the biggest complaint that I get from most of them is that they just plain do not trust the airport staff. They have had so many dealings with them. They've been lied to, and that's an exact quote from 2 or 3 people. They've been lied to about things. And that's where I think a lot of these problems are stemming from. GA is no saint either. I mean, we have problems on our side of the table also. But if we keep playing this tit-for-tat, 5-year-old, take my ball home off the playground crap, and that's exactly what I see going on here a lot on both sides, we're never going to get anywhere.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a process that you might have in mind that could bring, and I'm going to put your words back to you, transparency, openness, response, and clarification, to address some of those things?
Yeah, I sincerely think we just need to start being honest with each other. I think that's the first step in getting any kind of trust at any relationship. If you're constantly dodging and hiding behind words, that's just plain not good for anybody. If I'm having a conversation with anybody in this room, and I tell you one thing, and I go somewhere else, and all of a sudden I tell somebody else something that's not even close to that, and that circles around and comes back to me, what does that make you feel like? Am I just sitting here spinning my wheels? Is this even worth my time anymore? Those are the kinds of feelings I'm starting to get. I would love to see this airport perform like 80% of the other airports I've ever been at, and that is have some openness. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're not going to do it, tell me you're not going to do it. But don't sit there and say, yeah, it sounds like a great idea, and then have it just kind of pigeonholed and tabled and it never gets done.
So follow through.
Follow through, yes, sir. That would be a good thing. And like I said, you know, this constant tit for tat stuff, because I see it constantly here. And again, it's everywhere. It's not just there; it's here too. This constant tit for tat stuff has to stop, because it's getting to the point now where I think that a lot of the individuals on this airport, if there was another airport to go to, this airport would have a lot of empty hangars, to be honest with you. And I hate to see that happen, because number one, we have a great airport here. Number two, Mr. Williams has done a lot of good things here, pavement, and all the things that I see from a GA perspective. And you know, there's also been some things done here that shouldn't be done. I don't know how some of the board members feel. You know, I'm not sure where you guys all sit, whether you're, you know, everything is, you know, you're fat, dumb, and happy with everything. I'm not sure, you know, where your focus is. But I do know that there are a lot of unhappy people here. And I am one of those people. If there was another airport to go, you wouldn't even see me. I'd have been gone a long time ago.
Well, rest assured, your efforts are not wasted.
I appreciate that, I really do, and I appreciate the board always taking time to listen to anything that I have to suggest. Whether you guys do it or not, that's up to you, but my whole mission here is general aviation. General aviation is very important to me and to the economy of this town, along with the Marines, and along with agriculture, and along with everything else. All those nickels add up to dollars, and unfortunately, when you have an air of mistrust, dislike, people are going to go buy their fuel somewhere else. You're going to lose out on your fuel costs. People are going to take their money and put it somewhere else. And that's not good for this town. It's not good for this economy, because this is an economic engine for this town. And you need to understand that every decision we make in here doesn't just affect the guys that are renting hangars over here. It affects everybody that lives here. The lawsuits, I had never been, excuse me, I've never seen an airport with so many lawsuits. And are they supposed to be there? Do they need to be done? Probably. But did we really have to handle things that way? Couldn't we have handled them a better way? Could we have avoided all of this? One thing I learned a long time ago in lawsuits, and I've been in two of them, the only people that win are the attorneys. Nobody else wins. The attorneys get paid whether they win or lose. The rest of us walk away having to confess something. You know, we don't win in that stuff. And with all of this going on now, and then now we got Yuma County coming into this, and all of these different things that are happening, it's just creating this big mud pie, to put it nicely. I mean, it's definitely getting way out of hand here. And it's not good for anybody. It's not going to be good for Mr. Williams and his staff. It's not going to be good for the board. It's definitely not good for this airport. Period. I mean, it's just, you guys have to start being a little bit more logical and use a little bit more common sense before we do the knee-jerk reaction. Many a time, I've wanted to go out and just knock somebody out. And many a time I've had to restrain myself and say, think about it for 24 hours first before you think about doing this. And that's what I always do.
You get 3 meals a day like that.
You got to sit there and give yourself time to think, because as soon as you start wanting to do this knee-jerk reaction, you want to respond and hit them hard, give yourself 24 hours before you do anything. I guarantee you, when you wake up the next day, you're going to look at things totally different.
Yeah, mine's kind of short. I mentioned a long time ago when something happened that the board, the committee, you guys have autonomy. We have no one, if we feel y'all are doing something wrong, no one to go complain to. So when Ron and you come up with this idea that we might have a sounding board that we could call or talk to you guys, I thought that was the best thing in the world. Whether it's something that Mr. Williams has done, Mr. Gardner has done, or stepped on, whatever, you know. We need a sounding board, because I'll be honest with you, I was down talking to Mr. Pickles, is that how you pronounce it? And I talked to him last time he was here at the board meeting. He came up and I recognized him again, and he told me we don't have anything, you know. You guys are the ultimate, you're like God, and we just need something that if someone does something wrong, but we can come to you, we know that you'll listen, and you'll, if you feel it's warranted, you'll take it to the board and see what you can do about it.
So, if I could rephrase that.
Okay.
We can't fix everything, but
I understand that.
but many times just having a voice
Exactly.
and having the feeling that that voice is heard at least gets us partway to where we need to be.
Right. Based on what Chris said, a lot, and I can't say a lot, maybe some of the lawsuits and the stuff that's going on now would have never happened. They could have worked something out. That's very important. We need to work it out. So, thank you.
Joe?
So I'll be very specific. I know that this body is intent on addressing things that are specific, that perhaps maybe some action can be taken on, and I hope that action can be taken on this. And this concerns public records requests. The public records request process seemed to be alive and well. It was a 25-cent page charge, which I found to be exorbitant some months back. However, the process was in place. There became a juncture when individuals started requesting public records, and all of a sudden, as with other things here, there seemed to be a reactive nature from the airport staff as to how to manage public records requests. Myself in particular, and I've mentioned this before, other individuals have asked for public records and they've kind of been subjected to a different process. I feel as though I was somewhat singled out as to take a different course of action to get the records that I was requesting. I think 50 cents a page, if anybody here at this table was to do a query, it's incredibly exorbitant. The comparison to the county at Superior Court, I think it is not an apples to apples comparison. I think that it's grossly unfounded to compare this organization in terms of the cost per page to the Superior Court. What I would like to see is that the board could revisit that process, and as Mr. Alberti so eloquently put, transparency is at the crux of the entire debacle that's at the doorstep of this airport. There's no transparency whatsoever. In fact, one could argue that this is ran like private enterprise and not a public entity. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. So in so much as I think that courses of action were unnecessarily taken and the public records process was unnecessarily influenced. In fact, one could argue that the price should have come down to 10 cents a page. I've done a comparison, and I welcome everybody at this table to do the same. 10 cents a page is a very decent rate to charge for a copy of something. Some places don't charge a thing. There's different provisions for costs associated with public records requests, but I think that the process surrounding that effort here at the airport just was arbitrarily and capriciously changed for absolutely no reason. There's nothing driving other than perhaps a process where people started asking for records. It almost appears as though it was a diversionary tactic and it was something to dissuade people from doing records requests. And I've got one thing in particular that I would like this committee to follow up on. I had asked for a certain amount of records, and I was told by documentation and correspondence by Mr. Benish to come to the airport and that I could review the records at no charge, and if I was to pay $600 and some odd, I could then walk away with a copy of the records. Well, subsequent to that, I got a letter from somebody else here at the airport that stated that I was obligated to pay those funds. There was an incredible contradiction, and it's all on paper, and I'm happy to present this to anybody that would ask. But again, it goes back to what Mr. Alberti talked about. There's an incredible amount of mistrust, and it almost gives the appearance that people are doing so many things so loosely here that a person can't remember what he or she formerly did, and so we've got just an incredible amount of disorder surrounding a lot of the actions, and So I've got some other things to talk about as well, but I'll probably save those for the monthly board meeting next week. And so in particular, with respect to records requests, it would be fantastic if A, my pending request that I have, that I was recently notified that I was in the arrearages of $3,000 and some odd dollars, which I was A, never asked to pay by any sort of official correspondence. It was just an arbitrary number that was thrown out that actually was in contradiction to the figure that Mr. Benish had given me in his June 6 correspondence.
Okay, so let me see if I can rephrase this. Clear policy, not just about public records, but about everything.
Yes, sir.
And consistency in application of policy.
Yes, sir.
So that, as a process, that's the kind of thing that you're looking for.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. You know, this is why I never would be a good politician, because I can't remember names. So, the back row, Don, is that correct?
Dan
sorry.
I'm just here to learn, and I'm finding it very interesting. The only observation I would make is you ought to have a Cobra gunship on there also. It's a generational thing. Thank you.
Let me see. I'd probably go for a Huey. That's a generation old thing. So, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
My name is Jake. Do I really have to stand up?
No, you don't. No.
Because I'm just here to process.
Gentleman over here.
Douglas Holford. I've been very interested in investing in this town. And I read an article in the newspaper about the airport. So I decided to do some research on my own. My big concern is that in the minutes, there's no way to do a global search on items that have been brought up before the board that are in your documents on your website in the airport. So I cannot see anything on the Raleigh Airport without going through each one of the documents and they go all the way back to like 2003 or 4. So there's no way to do a research there. Also, I was doing research on the port of entry number 2. There's a concern. I read one of the articles or documents on the website, your website, on port entry number 2. Then I haven't been able to do a research to go back and find out where that was. So if an investor wanted to come in here and really do some research on connecting these pieces together between the Raleigh Airport, and the airport here, there's no way to do that. You have to dig through these documents and documents and documents. It may be mentioned in 2005, and the next time it's mentioned, it's in 2007. The next time it's mentioned over here in 2008. Next time it's mentioned in 2011. You have to go and find all these pieces and put it together to find out what the true picture is. And that's disconcerting when somebody wants to come in and do a research when you're trying to connect responsible organizations and committees with property that have been mentioned in your own documents. That's my only concern.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand, because there was a point when you went completely past my technical skills.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So it's basically being able to go to the website and you have like a little window where you type in a phrase or a word and it'll find references to that.
Yeah, I do a global search on your published documents.
Okay.
And it would bring up all where they're mentioned in different years and everything. Just pull them all together, and then you can pull these paragraphs out and put the picture together. Otherwise, you can't do it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? Sure. When you're talking about that kind of search, are you talking about just being able to do a search on the minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Those are your public documents.
Right.
Those are your legal documents, basically.
Okay. I'll have to go back and learn how to do it again, but I've done that.
We may have a small success already. I think that's a point well taken.
Thank you.
Donald?
Gilberto Garza Aviation. I'm just providing a service to general aviation, which the pilots have requested. It's not a money-making thing. Leave me alone. Let me do my job.
John Ewing. I've attended most of the Airport Authority meetings since the fall of 1975. And approximately 2-3 years ago, suddenly the minutes no longer reflected what was going on at the meeting. It was like it was a totally different meeting. And there were a few tidbits that you could read in there that had to do with the meeting. But generally, the gist of the meeting was not covered in minutes. I don't know what happened, but about 2-3 years ago, something changed dramatically.
People on the board?
Yeah, I'd like to, Mr. Hughes, I'll defer to Mr. Carter.
I was going to listen to that.
If everybody listens, this will be a short meeting.
Speaking somewhat of Mr. Holbert's comments, I have to agree with him, and I hope that we could do something like that, because I've spent countless hours in the last year plus rereading and reading the minutes, and it is difficult, definitely difficult. However, I did find this little gem in the 6/17/2010 Special Board of Directors meeting, creation of a GA committee. Anybody recall that? It says Mr. Williams explained that Mr. Gresser had appointed a GA committee. On this committee will be Mr. Whitehead, Mr. Gardner, and Dr. Tuff. He informed the board that there are 3 more spots available for this committee. The charter of the GA committee will be to work with the GA community, find out what is important to them so the board of directors can work on making these wishes a reality. And going back to Mr. Alberti's situation, or his statements, follow through. Apparently there was no follow through, because I've never seen or heard anything since that date about meetings of the GA committee or anything like that. And there again, it was probably done with good intentions, but with no follow through, and then a committee of 6 people becomes unwieldy. Try and get everyone together, make it function and things like that. So as we go forward today, if anything comes from this or of this, keep it simple, KISS.
That's a good approach. By the way, I forgot to mention this. In the call to the public, normally the board can't respond. That's why I decided we weren't going to have a call to the public and just have an open conversation, let people talk. So we can respond, and I forgot to mention that. I remember when we talked about that committee, and I would like to lay claim that this is an extension of that. It's not. This is new. Ron Rice wanted to do this. He got some feedback from people. I wanted to do it as a part of the responsibility of this committee. But I wanted to urge us to enlarge this so that if we're going to take this much time amongst the board and staff, that we include every stakeholder. So we have an investor here. We have GA. We have people who are operating businesses on the airport. And, you know, I'd love to see passengers or commercial here, whoever comes. That way people can hear each other's idea. We're all living in one house, and it's kind of hard to operate a well-run house if 3 people are off in one room making decisions about how high or low to set the air conditioning and not hearing what anybody else in the house has to say. So opening this up to all of the stakeholders, I think, would be important. You know, certainly the GA has been the most vocal, but who knows what tomorrow holds. And we have to leave it open to those folks.
Yeah. I'd like to respond a little bit to the GA committee. Bob, the GA committee was active, as I understand it. The committees, unless they're a standing committee, kind of disappear from president to president from year to year. And so that GA committee operated under Mr. Gresser's direction for a specific purpose, and we principally addressed the parking issue and that sort of thing. And then sort of folded the responsibility into this committee and into the strategic committee as the year progressed. So I don't think the impetus to create the committee went away. I think that specific committee kind of lost its focus once the parking issue was addressed, and then the responsibility went into your committee and my committee. But secondly, one of the things that I would like to talk a little bit about, getting on to another subject, is I realize that from the GA's perspective, the board seems unwieldy and non-transparent and this sort of thing. Sitting on this side of the fence with your lawyer telling you what you can and you can't do before every meeting, and the weight of the law if you do the wrong thing, you're not inclined to make any mistakes or do anything that's incorrect. So I think the GA committee or the GA community has to consider a little bit how difficult it is for us to operate with the public with as many restrictions as are placed on them. It's like we come to a meeting and the first thing you really hear is you can't respond to the public. By law, with the jail as being the ultimate penalty for transgression. Now that puts a little chill on the conversation, don't you think? And so I think you have to understand that the board has to find, and this is one of the avenues where we have to find out what the community thinks, because we can't find it out at a board meeting if it's not on the agenda. So I think that the GA people have to give us a little bit of slack for trying under what I consider to be some pretty difficult guidelines, far different than I thought they would be. I thought you'd show up at the meeting, the public would say, I want this, I don't want this is wrong, that's right. And it's okay, we'll fix it now. Well, it turns out that's, as I understand, not the way we operate. Secondly, one of the things I'd like to mention to the GA community is I think when you open these conversations with, you guys are crooks, you guys are underhanded, you guys are dishonest, you're unscrupulous, and you're engaged in criminal behavior, Mr. Gamaz, you often seem to feel that way, that conversation is not going to go well. And I've had too many people from the GA community tell us that, what is it, one of them said, by Wednesday, Mr. Williams will be handcuffed, the FBI will have him out the door. Now, I think that people who open conversations with these wild accusations and complete loss of common sense are not advancing our agenda here at the airport. This is serious business, and if you think we're criminals, there's places to make those charges. But to simply make accusations, hoping that if you throw enough mud at us, we'll fall down and confess to the crime, I'm appalled at the response from the GA community in general from specific individuals. That's the end of my listening.
An effective listener.
No.
In just a moment. I think what everybody is right now is getting some stuff off their chest. That's good. What we need to do, though, is go beyond that and figure out what problems we can solve by improving communications and what problems we simply are not going to be able to solve. And, if it's in court, leave it in court. If we leave it to the lawyers, but there are other things that we can do that will start us on the road to building better relationships by solving the smaller problems first and then working on the bigger ones. So we have an idea or a request, word or phrase search on our website. We've already got a positive response to that. So it's not going to solve every issue that we have out there, but it's a start. It's a start of a conversation about how we can get some of these things off the table. Joe?
Yes, sir. I'd like to respond to Mr. Gardner since I was, again, personally singled out. I think that is the epitome of the problem that we have here. Everything was going so smooth, but yet it's like, boom, we can sit here and throw mud at the wall using Mr. Gardner's characterization. We can do that all day long. And Mr. Gould, you are absolutely correct. Let the courts play out. What we're trying to do is prevent further litigation. And the notion that I would recklessly throw out characterizations such as this is criminal in conduct. I can tell every single board member and Mr. Williams, as I look at you all, there absolutely is borderline criminal conduct, okay, that has transpired against me personally, okay? And Mr. Gresser can laugh all day long. I mean, not even going to go
Well,
into
Joe, I
that.
think we're getting off into more substance
Okay.
right now.
Okay, sir.
What we need to do is figure out how to, all of us, dial this down, but there is a moment in any conversation where people need to say what they need to say and then leave it alone.
Okay, well, and I just want to recognize that I felt that was unnecessary when Mr. Gardner entered into what was just a very simple conversation.
We are feeling a lot of frustration. Deep breath moment, count to 10, and then, oh, Craig.
I'm ready to engage right this second. To Chris, let me say a couple things. As far as transparency is concerned, I believe we are a very transparent organization. I think our website has more information on it than any other airport that I know of. I've routinely gotten comments from around the country where people tell me, oh, I looked at your website. It's incredible the amount of information you guys have. So we made a conscious decision to increase transparency of everything we do, and I think we've done a good job. Now, if we're lacking in some area, somebody wants some different kind of information, if they would talk to us, and that's what I specifically want to talk to you about. Not too many people come see me. I think maybe there was a basic misunderstanding of process and procedure over the last few years, and I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on it. A lot of the GA come to the board meetings and they make comments. And as Mr. Gardner pointed out, we're not allowed to respond. And so I sit here and I listen, and if it's a general complaint and there's not something very specific, I just, in my mind, I file that away and go, okay, that's something that needs to be worked on. Every now and then somebody comes out with something that is very specific in the general comment period, like the question here about full text search, that when my programming skills were sharp, that's a very easy thing to do. That's built into the tools that we use on our website. I will try and recreate that ability, and if I can get it right, that won't take any time at all, and it's a very powerful tool. So I didn't realize, there was people were frustrated by not being able to search. I never realized that because on my desktop, where I access the same database, that's built in. So whenever I need to do a search, it takes like that. So we can fix that. A while back, Mr. McDermott, in one of the comment sessions, complained about wanting to have the frequency written on the ground down at Raleigh Field. And that was another example where we're listening and go, oh, that's a good idea. That's something that we can do. And so when general comments or complaints are made that are beyond at least my scope to deal with without board action, then you're right, nothing happens. And so where you thought, my feeling is now, where you thought you were making specific requests and other people thought they were making specific requests, they weren't really treated as requests, they were treated as public comment. And so what I would encourage you and anybody else who's interested, if you have a need, please come talk to me. We have an open door policy. And if you come and talk to me 3 times in the same week, I would be happy to entertain you 3 times in the same week. Not too many people in the GA community do come to me. A few do. And when they do, my feeling is they leave happy. I do get visitors all the time from the public at large. And when they come see me, they usually leave happy. We take care of them. But until you come in and we can sit down and talk about something, it's not going to get addressed. The reason it's not going to get addressed is not because we're not interested, it's just because we already have a full priority list of things that we're working on. But if I know specifically there's something that you want that is within my own discretion just to take care of in the normal course of business, we'll do it right away. So I guess my response is, or if you have a question that you want the answer to, just come see me. Come see me, and I will give you the information probably right then. And if I can't, I'll get it back to you. So my comeback to a lot of your questions and your beefs is, please just come visit me. I'm never so busy that I can't carve some time out to meet anybody who's interested in coming and talking to me. I think that I hope if you will do that, we can solve a lot of what is being called issues.
May I respond to that?
Give me just one moment. I sort of feel like I'm in the classroom and I have to say something. I think what we're experiencing here to some extent is a bit of defensiveness on our part, a bit of mistrust or more on the GA or the community's part. And going through the few notes I have here, though, we want to reach out to the community, whatever the community is defined as, and find out what is going to serve within our means the community best. We also need to hear from y'all as to what you need, but we also, I think, have to set aside some of the emotion. Everybody has said something, not everybody, many people have said something nasty to somebody else on the other side. And there shouldn't be a side. There really should not be a side. We're in this together. We can't fix everything. There's just not that level of funding available. But there's other things that we can do as long as we maintain an open and honest discussion about these things. What I'm hearing from Craig is he really wants to do this. I know the board wants to do this. It's our job to do it, really. But we don't do it just because it's a job. We're all volunteers on the board. We do it because we think we can add value to what the airport does. So if we can take some of the emotion out of it, take some of the sort of hurt feelings out of it, then I think we're going to get a little bit further, and we'll do more than just putting frequency numbers on runways or putting word phrase searches on our website. We'll be able to get into other things that solve bigger problems. So, sorry, Chris.
In the very first part of your comment, you mentioned transparency. I have, for untold months, have asked this board to videotape meetings, don't tamper with it, don't edit it, leave it as such. I don't think one time that has happened. Before that, when whoever was writing up the meeting minutes, comments from the GA were so generalized that it didn't even sound like that person saying it anymore, because it wasn't word for word exactly what they said. And that's what meeting minutes should be. In this day and age of videotape, recording, there's no reason to edit. Leave it the way it is. Put it out there the way it was said, with the emotion of what that person made it look like. Because 9 times out of 10, when somebody gets emotional and starts saying something, the person watching the video is going to be looking at how much of a knucklehead they're making out of themselves and not hearing their words. And that happens both sides. I mean, I've seen it on both sides in open meetings with the board and with guys on the side and with the GA side. And it's interesting to me that every time we try to get to a point of saying, okay, we're going to do this and this is the way it is, I hate to go back to this, but we have music playing over somebody's words. That was just totally, in my opinion, totally inappropriate. It should have never been done, no matter who is speaking, they need to be heard. No matter what they're saying, they need to be heard. People that are watching the video will take away what's going on. I liken this to the newscasters after I watch a presidential speech trying to tell me what the president just said. I turn the TV off immediately as soon as the president's done talking, because I'm smart enough and have enough knowledge to know that I don't need you to tell me what he just said. I heard what he said. I don't need your influence. I don't need your patronage to tell me that. I'm not smart enough to understand what I just heard.
Were you at the last board meeting?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, I think we solved that specific problem we solved at the last board meeting.
The point that you brought up, the edits were made for what was felt to be good reason. After second look, the decision was, let's not do that. And all of those that had been edited have been replaced. And so, and we haven't been doing this for that long, but
right.
all of the videos that are there now are the videos.
Unedited. So at the last board meeting, we heard what people were saying. Craig heard what people were saying. We all came to an agreement that it is what it is. I think except for maybe, and not that anybody has ever done this, because they have not, except for some foul language, we've agreed not to edit this anymore. So that issue has now been solved.
I can understand editing something out of somebody is using foul language, inappropriate gestures, so on and so forth. I can understand that. But I guess my question would be back to you is, why was it done in the first place? Why?
Well, I think we thought, as a group, that we were acting in the best interest of the board and the airport. However, everybody gets a chance to rethink things. Sometimes you do nothing. In this case, I think we recognize that it is what it is. And we acted very quickly, Craig acted very quickly, and rectified that. So we do make mistakes. We acknowledged it, and we moved on.
At least, again, here we're having a conversation. At least you have said this was not a good idea. Didn't have to admit whether you're wrong, but I don't even care about that. What I like to hear is, we reconsidered this, it didn't look right, we decided to do it this way. Even if it wasn't what I may agree with or somebody else may agree with, at least that's an answer to me, giving me a reason why you're doing something. When something is being done and there is no whys, I'm a why person. I need to know the details. A lot of people aren't, but I am. And when somebody says something to me, my first question is, okay, why are we doing this? Why did you do that? How come we're doing this? Which path are we following here? What is the direction? What is the focus? If I understand your focus, I'll understand your why a lot better also. But I need to just make sure, I need to personally just to make sure that you understand from my point of view, a lot of other people that I have talked to that email me constantly that are investors in this airport that have airplanes here. Most of them, the comment is quit messing around with everything. Let things be the way they need to be, and let us continue trying to grow back a relationship that this airport staff and board had 3 to 5 years ago, or whatever it was in its heyday, and everybody was like, yeah, let's work at the airport. Because that's what this is all about, guys. We need to understand this isn't about any one individual or any group of individuals. This place is going to be here 50 years from now when we're all dead and gone. I tell people that at the hospital, I think that the hospital will never run without them. The hospital's been here 100 years before you. It's going to be 100 years after you, and it's going to still be here. You're not that intricate of a player. But as a group, we need to understand that we should be doing this all for the benefit of the airport, at the hospital, all for the benefit of the patient. That's the way it needs to be. And until we get past all of this nitpicking and accusations, it's going to be a tough road. And as everybody here has found out, it's been a very tough 2 years for everybody. I think everybody in this room's got a couple more gray hairs because of it. I know from just going through all the stuff I've gone through with the GA, talking to the board, trying to talk to the staff members when I do come in and talk to them, which Mr. Williams is right. Anytime I've ever come in, he's always made time for me. It's one of these things where we need to quit walking around with this chip on our shoulder. Oh, we're going to get GA because they did this. We're going to say this about this board member because we're not sure what's going on. We're going to say this about Mr. Winters because we don't trust him. We've got to develop this whole different attitude here because none of this, absolutely none of this, is good for this airport. And I think what you're going to find is more of this stuff gets out on the internet, more people that were thinking about UNO are going to stop thinking about UNO. And that, again, is not good for our economy.
I think that's something we can all agree
Mr.
to.
Chairman,
Yes, Bill?
while you're calling for less emotion in some of these meetings, I hope that we will include that we will refrain from ad hominem attacks as well.
I think beyond this meeting, once we've sort of gotten some of this out of our system, that's going to be one of the rules.
You know, you might want to consider, we hear a lot of references to the way things were and the way things are now. And you may want to develop something specifically, I think, in the GA community. And that's, as we all admit, that's only one of our constituencies, one of our partners. But you may want to say, why don't you sit down, take a few minutes and tell us what was better than it was 2 years ago, what's worse now than it was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. How have things changed? Why is this airport, from your particular personal standpoint, not as beneficial a facility, or whatever you want to phrase it, than it was so many years ago? And let people really think about it. Is it because we've got too much pavement? Is it because we spend too much money? Or is it because we have, I worked with the Marine Corps in their ramp up of security has changed access to inside the fence. What are the things that are wrong? Because if we have a list of the things that are perceived as being wrong, then you can say, okay, well, these are maybe some of the things that we can work on. When it's just, it's not as good as it was 4 years ago. Well, what the heck does that mean? What was it 4 years ago? It was so much better than it is now. And if people could put, and I don't mean this, I mean this in a positive. Say, gee, that's right, we used to do that, or we don't have to do this, or maybe we went too far in doing that. But if people could quantify it, then you have a much better, if you know what it is you're working on, you have a much better way to find a solution. Just a thought.
I think we all remember the days when we could walk right down to the exit to the airplane and greet our families.
Oh, right.
And, the environment has changed. Some of that gets boiled into the things we do. But I think that Bill makes some good points, but I also believe that Chris and everybody else here has made some good points in that we're just not communicating, and that's what I'm hearing. And we are now hearing that. I would suggest, and I don't want to speak for everybody on this committee because we're all reasonably busy people, but that we convene this committee more often to have these kinds of discussions, but also to take our temperature. Where are we? Are we getting better or are we getting worse? But as Mr. Gresser has suggested, we need to take the personal attacks out of it. We've said that at this meeting. People have, not in I think in an overly vicious way, have talked about each other. Now let's talk about issues. If we can keep it at the issues, and if we can debate ideas rather than attack personalities, we're going to be a heck of a lot better in the long run. So that's the direction I would like to take this group. But I'd also like folks to recognize, and we're going to see some of this in the second agenda item, that we're doing a lot of things contrary to what really not anybody in this room has said, but other people outside of this room has said, you're trying to push GA off. Well, we're spending a lot of money to not do that. Or we're just spending money, I don't know. But I don't think it's a case that we want to push GA off. And I don't think it's a case that this board has any design to make the lives of the GA community miserable. But we are the focus point of what happens MCAS, commercial, GA, passengers. This is where it all comes together, and it's a juggling act. I'm not sure how we get it done, only meeting once a month. So having said that,
have we arrived at any kind of a process that will allow for future?
That's where I was going next.
Communication? Okay.
See, you read my mind. See, that's why I wanted to sit over here so you can read my mind.
Well, you have this hole in your head.
Many people have said that, including my mother. Do we need a few more meetings a year like this?
Yes.
Okay. So that's one thing. One of the things that I think Mr. Gresser point is well taken. Think about it. Do a little homework. What's better? What's worse? If you feel like tackling that, send me an email. Outline it. Then I can share it with everybody else, and we can start going through this. And the idea behind that is that we think we're doing pretty good in some areas, but if we're not, this is the reflective self. You can only know yourself through the reactions you get from other people. So we'd like to know ourselves better. So send me an email, bullet point, essay, whatever you want to do, send me an email, and we'll try and start tackling the perceptions. And then I think my recommendation, and certainly we can add to this, because I'm only the chair, is that we go back to the full board and we say, we're looking at more meetings, we're looking at taking probably more email input, but we don't want to circumvent meaty conversations or immediate reaction, or things that need immediate reaction with the board staff. I mean, that's the best way to do it. If something's broken, hangar doors aren't working, whatever is, that's not a board thing. Get it to Craig. And if you have suggestions and issues, you heard what Craig said, give it to him. I found him to be very open and very willing to react to the things that are within his scope and discretion. He'll do it.
Yeah, a couple comments. One, the GA thing that you guys said, that Bob brought up, first I've ever heard of it, but that's okay, you guys have got it now. My other one is Chris is right. There's been a couple times on the spur of the moment, something would really upset me, and I couldn't understand why. I'd whip in the parking lot, come upstairs, ask to talk to the receptionist. Craig would find time to talk to me. So, and whether I left happy or not is immaterial, but I left with a better understanding. And that, I got to give him credit for that. He did take the time. I may have waited out in the office 2 or 3 minutes till he finished whatever he's doing, but he did take the time. Spur of the moment, no appointment, was there. The other thing I'd like to say is, please, 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 let's have more of these kind of meetings. For sake of argument, leave the legal lawyers out. I mean, this is a great conversation. It's here, it's good. So, it's good. I would just say better communication. And on your website, whatever.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
I was just thinking, maybe what we should recommend, again, for consideration, not necessarily for action today, but recommend that this be made a standing committee rather than an ad hoc committee, and that you publish the fact that you're going to meet quarterly. I don't think you need to meet every month or something, but if it's quarterly, that isn't too burdensome. It gives time to collect information and the work.
And the responsibility of this committee we can suggest that to the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But to go back to the GA, we did solve some problems in that one. I don't know why it's not reflected in the right places, but the biggest thing we tackled there was the parking thing. But all ad hoc committees die at the change of administration. I mean, I read Robert's rules many long years ago, and ad hoc committees just died. So making this a standing responsibility of this committee, having quarterly meetings, if we need something to deal with issues in the interim, we can call a meeting. But just make this a part of what we do at Tuesday on 4 o'clock when we're not in a regular board meeting.
And the Tuesday before the board meeting.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, just some thoughts.
I mean, we'll make the time if y'all have the time. Chris?
I think that your idea with the communication is absolutely right on the money. The problem is that a lot of times the communication is skewed. We're getting information, but the information is not correct, or in some people's minds it's there to throw them off the track. And that's not good. We need to get some honest communication going with some direct answers. And I think that if we started doing that, and that's everybody, I think that would clear up a lot of the mistrust that there is from one side or the other. You made a comment earlier about this should be everybody together, and you're absolutely right, it should be. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a point in time where certain things happened and sides got formed because of it. To undo that is going to be very difficult because of the fact of human nature. Humans love to complain, like to, if you excuse the word, bitch and moan. But
we might have to edit that part.
that's quite all right. But the thing is this, most people that I hear usually yanking and cranking don't have a solution. And the thing is if you're going to yank and crank about something, tell me what the solution is. This whole thing, like I said way back when with this parking thing, I said, okay, so what is the solution? And, well, we finally got to a point to where we're getting to a solution. Not everybody's happy about it, but you're not going to make everybody happy. But I think what we need to do is there are certain individuals on all sides that want to just yank and crank about things, and just for the fact of being able to sit there and say it, with no solution in mind, nothing in mind to make the situation better. I hope that over the last 2 years that most of these people that I have dealt with and most of the board members try to understand that I'm trying to make solutions for things that we don't like, or compromises, because we're going to have to compromise on certain things. I wasn't happy having to go and say, okay guys, we can't drive our cars to the hangars anymore. I wasn't happy when Mr. Williams said we can't go by this line anymore. And obviously that was a command decision between everybody. I mean, I wasn't happy about any of that. This is one of the few airports, matter of fact, this is the only airport I've ever been on where I drive on. I understand why it's done. I realize why it had to be done, because of the F-35 coming in, because of Marines, so on and so forth. That's all understandable to me. A lot of people just don't get that. They want to be able to do things the way they used to do it, and that's the way they want it. We're all creatures of habit. And when you start changing, human beings are notorious. They hate change. They just hate it. You throw something out there, they hate change. They can't stand it. Why can't I do it this way? This is the way I used to do it. You hear that all the time. This is the way we used to do it. Now, times have changed for everybody. Everything has changed, and we have to be able to adapt. And if you can't adapt, you're going to be one of the yankers and crankers with no solutions.
You're hired to teach my Psych 101. All right, what I'd like to do is move to the second agenda item and thank Craig for putting this together. What we again want to do outside of our normal board activities is keep the public informed of the grants that we're working on, any kind of runway closures, anything that goes on that impacts any of our stakeholders, right down to changes in parking fees if that ever happens, changes in restaurant hours, whatever. So this is,
And there's just a few bullet items up there. I'll brief this in more detail at the board meeting. If anybody has any questions, let's bring them up.
mine is, what, we've been going round and around about the TSA thing. We had some grant money, or we were getting some,
Yeah.
that dried up, then we got some more.
Yeah, we do have a grant right now, and we're ready to bid it out. We were about ready to bid it out, and TSA asked for some changes. Because before we bid, I wanted to ask them one last time, and then they had some changes. We've made those changes, and to the best of my knowledge, I'm trying to get the location of a plug that's going to go, it has to be put into the concrete on the floor for some of their equipment.
Electrical?
Yeah, electrical plug. And Chris Thompson, he's taken, he took a vacation, week's vacation. He got back on Monday. We're trying to get some other stuff done on the AIC, and then we're going to get this.
Chris is the architect, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robert?
I was going to say, what's the situation with 1735? I see it's closed at the moment.
That's part of the taxiway Zulu. We're replacing taxiway Zulu right up to it, and so you've got to close by law.
How long?
I
2 weeks.
forget the date.
It'll be 2 weeks. It started on August the 6th, so it'll reopen in 2 weeks. Then it'll be open for that small, short duration, and then on September the 10th, we'll be closed for another 2 weeks, just so that we can finish the striping. Then at that time, we'll reopen 1735 and Zulu 3, and then we're going to close the entrances off of onto Zulu, Zulu 2, and Zulu 1, and then at that time have to resituate with the northwest hangars as well. And then you can expect a closure on 826 around September the 20th for a duration of about 2 months with the Marine Corps Air Station doing the restriping of the center line. All of this information
Restriping of the center line.
Yes. Yeah, I know. All this information, just so everybody knows, we try to update and keep it on the Facebook, especially with the phasing plans or with information, as well as Twitter. That's one of the public relations that Jen does, as well as to the tenants. We try to send something within inside of their monthly statement. And then if there's other questions, all you have to do is call air operations, the airport operations, and we'll help you, or you can call any of the directors as well. So we all stay informed weekly. So August 6th, September 10th, and then the September 20th for 826.
Okay. And how long did you say 26 is going to be closed?
26, right now, it looks like a duration of possibly 2 months, because they also are going to take care of some cracking and just a couple of issues on the runway itself. And then just so you know, after that, they'll be working on 1735. We're doing the same thing. There's some cracking, crack sealing, and striping. So the Marine Corps Air Station is going to do construction work as well, and they'll be closing. You'll see runways closed, so you always have 2 open at a minimum. But I'll tell you now, too, there's an expected closure on the outboard runway as well.
And just so you know, I'm real impressed with the money that's coming in. They're doing a lot of construction on the runways. They replaced all the lighting and signage in a lot of the areas, and over the next few years, they're getting they're putting some good money into the airport.
The taxiway lights on Zulu 2 and 3?
Those will all be resolved, and you'll have lights at the completion of the taxiway Zulu lighting project. I was actually bid in that job and awarded as well. So you'll have lighting all the way through on the PALs. So that will be something wonderful. So by the end of the year, start of January the 1st of next year, we hope they should be completed. Their completion date is December the 16th. So I would say by January 1st for sure, without a doubt, that you'll see lights there once again. I know it's been some time, a long time.
It's going to go all the way around the infield.
That's right, and lighted signs everywhere. So that job does take care of it.
And we're hooking the electric up. We met with Ron Cruz of MCS late last week, I guess, and we're running the power down Taxiway Zulu under 321 under their ramp into their lighting pole. And he's given us a 30 kV voltage regulator to hook it into, and then he's going to hook Taxiway Alpha into Zulu 3. So finally, we're working like this on the infrastructure. Good.
That is a really welcome thing. I know the taxiway lights, runway striping, things like that.
And
I think Zulu's widening is a big deal, but it wasn't absolutely necessary for the, but the lights and striping, I think, are really good. That's going to be, at night, it was very difficult to turn off 2.6 at high speed. And I always lamp at high speed, just like my
And you sent me an email, did that get covered? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be on the record agenda.
And we talked about it for a while.
Okay.
Questions there?
I think that concludes our agenda. I'd like to thank everybody for their patience. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank the board members and the staff. I mean, every minute that you spend doing this, something else isn't getting done. So I really appreciate that, and more than anything, thank you for your patience.
We're meeting again.
We'll set, we need to look at a calendar, then we'll circulate an email, and have some set meetings.
Are we anticipating for a little while monthly meetings, you think, until we solve some problems, or you think?
Well, it's identified. Yeah. And that's what, people start sending in stuff and start opening up some of these discussions, and then we'll see how frequent we need to be. Probably another meeting before a quarter goes by, at least, one more, and then see what the workload is, and then move into quarterly meetings.
Very good.
We're done. Thank you.
Did it again, so you get the sound.